Hello, welcome to The Big Fight. As patriotic Indians who love our country, I guess one of the big questions that's always there on the back of our minds is the country's reputation, especially abroad, going up or going down? What is causing that reputation to be embellished and to be enhanced? And what's causing it to decrease a little bit or to have blots put on it? And that's one of the subjects that we're going to be taking a look at, because in recent weeks and months, many things have happened that people could argue have been substantially enhancing India's image. Ease of doing business. Business has just gone up from 130 to 100, a better, easier pace to do business. India rising, India shining, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. All of those are factors that, of course, continue to enhance India's reputation. And then you have the soft cultural factors, as all of those continue to roll around the world, again has a major impact. On the downside, if there are ever incidents of violence or tension and all of that happens, it tends to diminish India's reputation. Recently, on the tourism front, one of the areas which, of course, India should be one of the leaders in tourism in the world, if you actually think about it, given the amount of assets that we have out here. But there have been some questions around the Taj Mahal. There have been all of these bad, scary headlines around air pollution, and is India a safe country to go to or not? Then, of course, attacks on certain foreigners, the Swiss couple obviously, but even in a couple of other cases. You're having some countries saying it's not necessarily safe for single women to travel to India, which also causes a certain level of control of problems. And then, just when you thought all of that was being put to rest, India's reputation, which has been considerably enhanced by having so many better airports, now suddenly you're seeing all these big long queues, which is again causing some concern. So let me get all of these aspects to be discussed by our panel out here, who've debated various aspects of this in the past, but let's now try and bring it all together and see what is it that we can do to ensure that we all get what we really should want, which is that India's reputation should keep rising and rising and rising and rising, and not have any questions coming on it from any of these fronts. So great to have with us Mr. Balshankar, who's a member of the BJP Central Committee on Training and Committee on Publications. Great to have you with us. Kansham Tiwari of the Samajwadi Party, who's been wondering a little bit and scratching his head about the entire controversy around the Taj and everything that's been happening with it. Geeta Bhatt is variously described as a Hindutva supporter and an RSS supporter, so I'll introduce you as both. Geeta, thank you so much for joining us. Aditya Mukherjee, top historian, is going to help us try and put all this into some sort of historical perspective. Karuna Nandi, advocate Supreme Court, great to have you joining us. And Sunil Alag, independent business consultant, may have a lot to say on ease of doing business among many other things. Just wanted to start off by asking you, when you're looking at headlines, it's a good way sometimes of judging how a country is doing. The sort of headlines that you're seeing about it in the foreign media and elsewhere, what are people saying about it? Do you think these have been good days or bad days in the last few months? And perhaps we should come back and do a regular test on this. This is one of the ways in which we can see how well the country is doing.
See, Vikram, the point is, ever since Narendra Modi came to power, there has been a lot of talk about doomsday for India. But the fact is that on every front, be it on investment, be it on tourism front, be it on ease of doing business, on every front, India is shining. And Narendra Modi, India has got the best Prime Minister we ever had, and in the world.
It's dangerous to say India is shining just before an election coming, I should warn you. You tried that, the NDA tried that in 2004, and we knew what happened after that.
Let me complete. What I am saying is, we are always looking at the fault lines.
Yeah.
We have been talking about, all kind of intolerance, all kind of, women unsafe in India. But all these things are there all over the world. In any country you take, these things are there as peripheral issues. But we are bringing the peripheral to the mainstream, and we are ignoring the mainstream. What is happening? India's image is being talked down by a section of people, a section of the media, and a group of politicians, and deliberately it is being done. This is unfair. We look at economy. India is the fastest growing economy.
Being deliberately
it is an investment destination.
No, so what constitutes talking down India's reputation? If, for example, sections of the media or anybody says, hey, air pollution is bad and it should be fixed, or that it's shocking that there are attacks that have happened on a couple of tourists somewhere, isn't that legitimate reporting? You should report the good and report the bad.
When you have an 8-column headline saying that we are in a gas chamber, that is talking down India. Yes, air pollution is there. We are doing everything to better it. But that is not brought by the government or Narendra Modi government.
No,
so it is there. We all have to work for it.
So hang on.
As a country, I think we have to fight
let me ask
for the image of the country, and we have to highlight that is positive about India.
Okay, so point taken, not everything negative that happens is necessarily the fault of the central government. Point well taken. You know, you can say, yes, we are trying to fix it. Okay, if there are traffic jams happening somewhere, you can blame the government, but you can say, well, it's a result of so and so factors and we're trying to fix it. Same is true with air pollution. Same is true on attacks on women. It's not as if attacks on women have only happened right now under the Narendra Modi government. They've been happening for a long period of time. I'm actually trying to get your take on the second part of what he said, that we shouldn't be talking about these so much because it brings down the image of India. Would you agree with him?
Well, I'll make 3 points on that. One is that every one of us, this is a young room, every one of us wants India to do well. India doing well boosts our morale, boosts our sense of what we can contribute to the society. So we are on the same page on that. But it is important then when BJP talks about Modi shining and does not want to discuss, does not want to discuss that, you know, what is not working when we want to build a better India for tomorrow. It was just said that it happens in every country that, you know, women get attacked. Just today, the gender index came where India slipped 21 points. On hunger index, we slipped 6 points. On press freedom index, we slipped 3 points. So India cannot shine when there is no equality. India cannot shine when the press is not free. India cannot shine if we do not know how would we get the jobs to contribute to the society. India cannot shine if the ruling party believes in a jingoism of the leader of the day. The leader of the day, every one of you, irrespective of your political lines, believed when Modi ji said, "Achhe din aayenge," somewhere deep within you wanted "Achhe din aayenge." Why does BJP not talk about Achhe Din now? And why does it question that, you know,
he's saying Achhe Din aa here, he's saying he's the best prime minister that you've ever had and this is and India is shining. So he is saying that Achhe Din aa gaye.
Yes, so look at the certificates he wants. He wants a World Bank to say Achhe Din is here. He doesn't want the youth, the poor whose jobs were lost. He doesn't want the farmer to say Achhe Din is here. You did not go to World Bank to seek votes. Let's be very clear. You went to
But if the World Bank is saying that, so let me ask actually Sunil Alag this. Sunil, if the World Bank says that the ease of doing business has improved 30 points, Ghanshyam is saying that's not necessarily the criteria of judging whether India is shining or not. Should it be the criteria? Is it a major event that the ease of doing business has improved 30 points?
Look, I mean, I don't want to get into this BJP versus Samajwadi and all. They're all talking about whether Modi is good or bad. That's not the question that should be debated today. The question is India on the right path? Is India improving? Yes, it is. Undeniably. There's no question in anybody's mind. Is there still stuff to do? Of course there is. But look, abroad, when I've just come back from Sweden and I was in the United States just a couple of weeks ago, everywhere, right down from cab drivers to industrialists to chambers of commerce, they all are talking about India, saying, wow, what a great country, everything is going well. Internally, we are bringing ourselves down by constantly, as someone raised earlier, constantly putting us down. The narrative abroad, for instance, when you have, like in New York, when you had that guy plowing this ISIS person who killed a lot of people, which is very, very sad. Right. The question is not to say that it's happening all over the United States. The immediate response of the media is to say, yes, it's happening. This is the action we are taking.
You've spent a lot of time in the US and in Sweden and everywhere else. When you're seeing the headlines about India, yes, the talk about the economy and the potential of the economy and the fact that all of that is happening, that's great. It's not that you aren't also reading other sort of headlines like the environmental issues, the air pollution issues, the attacks on women issues, the, you know, queues on immigration, all of those also become factors. So I think the point that I'm trying to ask is, isn't it the correct thing to talk about both to enhance the positives and try and fix the negatives? Isn't that what we should try and do?
I agree with you and I agree with everybody else. There's a long way to go on a number of things. But to talk about it, but to only talk about it in a negative way is what I'm raising right now. I've gone through long queues in JFK, even in Heathrow. But what they've done over the last couple of days,
are two of the worst airports in the world. Delhi airport actually had become one of the best airports in the world.
I agree with you. Can I just say, if for 11 months in the year you are the best airport in the world, and for 2 weeks you're the worst, What do you rate the airport as? It still remains the best. That's the point I'm making. I'm not saying that we must not improve. Was the queues like this in June? Was it like this in July? Was it like this in August? It wasn't. No. When they rate a country, all I'm saying abroad, they don't take 1 or 2 weeks. We tend to extrapolate that 1 or 2 weeks into what the country is forever. Okay. That's the issue that I'm making. Of course, we've got to improve on it. Of course, we've got to have Terminal 2 coming up. There's X, a number of things happening.
Okay, Aditya, there are a number of things doubting, nobody is doubting. He's saying, don't extrapolate from a couple of bad examples to, paint a negative picture all around the country. Some people actually have extended that to say if you're saying anything critical, even if it's justifiably critical, it's almost an anti-national thing to do, which in a sense is contrary to what you should be doing in a democracy, where you should be, it's only by shining a light on all the problems that there are that you can actually fix them.
Since you started with India's image abroad, the image is not made since yesterday or since Narendra Modi came to power. The image has a long-term background. One, of course, from the ancient and medieval past, the Taj is a great example of the image. The great architecture, the great mathematicians, the Varamihiras, that's one thing. The other was post-independent India being successfully, as you said, being able to build an inclusive, multicultural, multi-religious democracy. The only example in the world at that time. So this was something we were very proud of. And since 1991, so these have all happened a long time ago. Since 1991, India also acquired the image of its capacity to become an economic powerhouse. So this is the long-term image we have. Now, if we damage any of these, like if we do things by just whim, you decide on demonetization against all advice, it damages the economy, it is damaging this long-term influence. Or let's say, if you allow lynching of people, killing of opposition, controlling the press, anybody who opposes you call them anti-national, you equate government to the nation. If anybody is anti-government, you say you are Deshdrohi. Now, this is fascism. This is exactly how Mussolini described what is anti-national. He said anybody who is anti-state is anti-national. These are ruining our images. Okay, so what ruins our image, for example, is if somebody says that the Taj, for example, was built, was a Shiva temple and was a Hindu townhouse or something like that.
About that.
No, but I'm just saying that then we go back to the image of Indians being snake charmers and we imagine everything. We say that Christianity was actually Krishna Niti. The same guy who questioned the Taj also said Christianity was Krishna Niti and the Vatican was Vatica. You see? So, I mean, of course, this is P.N.O. Purushottam Nagesh Oak. Yeah. This is what he said. We as students used to read this and we thought this was the lunatic fringe. But this lunatic fringe is now occupying main space. And you have to now debate whether the Taj was built by Shah Jahan and who killed whom.
The Vatican was actually the Vatica.
Yeah, the Vatican was Vatican. Christianity was Krishna Niti.
Rome ki Vatica. Okay, fine, that's interesting.
And the Kaaba was, of course, a shivling.
Okay, I really haven't heard some of these stories, but they're interesting.
These are not stories. These are in textbooks published by the RSS.
Geeta, I mean, first of all, so he says that some of the stuff which was happening is actually, A, he said that the lunatic fringe is moving to the center stage, and B, if I extrapolate what he says, that some of what used to be considered really good and great about India all this time, some questions are being asked about that, like the Taj, for example, as he said, or the fact that India is the only country in the world of its size which is being able to grow and prosper with full unity in diversity and taking everyone else along, and there's a questioning of that, questioning of some of the freedoms. Would you agree with him that this has started to happen?
See, India is the only single country which has been endowed with, the kind of rich diversity in culture, in geography, I think this is one point which all of us agree. As far as criticism is concerned, I think any kind of criticism which is constructive in nature, it is always welcome, and we are in a democracy. Yes, criticism, it is welcome. But the point is that in what way, whether the criticism is constructive or destructive in nature. As you just said, that whether we want that India is shining or not. In this, I would like to add in terms of the recent ease of doing business report which has just come, which you just mentioned, that after, I think it was in 2002 that World Bank started with ease of doing business project. Yeah. And in since 2003, India has adopted 37 reforms. And what is important to note is that out of these 37 reforms, 50% of the reforms have been implemented in the last 4 years. So what actually it shows is that there is a political will which is trying to introduce with structural reforms, and that is what is getting reflected. I mean, we cannot just ignore
I think that is,
various world
I
bodies.
actually think there is very little disagreement on that positive. So I'm just trying to understand what's constructive and what's destructive, because you're 100% correct in saying that if good things are happening, if reforms are taking place and ease of doing business is getting better, you should be talking about it, you should be reflecting that, you should be saying, isn't this good, and that should be held up as a great example of the direction that which we should go. I don't think there's any question in that. I'm trying to understand when you're saying something is destructive. So if, for example, you're having people or critics saying, we've got to make sure that air pollution levels go down. We've got to make sure that the traffic jams are ended. We've got to make sure that no foreign tourist ever comes to the country and is attacked. Their safety has to be done. We have to ensure that the safety of women is taken care of. If you're talking about some of these issues and talking about them and saying these problems must be fixed, is that constructive or destructive?
For example, when you're talking about pollution, you see, we all understand this, that pollution, it is a very macro issue. It is not just a micro issue. So when we are talking about pollution, we have to talk about pollution all 365 days. We can't be selective in trying to decide curbing pollution just for a select days. That is the idea.
No, hang on. There has to be policy decisions. But Geeta, if there is pollution between the months of October and February, it's a 4-month period. I agree with you. Maybe you should not say that pollution is only linked to Diwali, for example. That's a mistake, because it's not. It's not only linked to Diwali. Diwali is just one of the factors. But October to February, we know this from historical data, is a period when pollution spikes. It's for weather and other related factors. So obviously you talk about in these 4 months. Problems to do with the monsoons are in the months of June, July and August. You have to worry about it then.
I don't think that there is any kind of report or study that has still been conducted by CPCB or by Ministry of Environment and Forest, which has come specifically related to it. But from IIT Kanpur, there was a report which was submitted to Delhi government, and that report very categorically says that the highest pollution levels, air quality index, it falls down because of the road dust. 56% pollution actually comes. So there are many other issues.
I don't want to convert this into a
pollution. Everything into account. You see,
I agree with you, but I'm saying you can't.
Selective.
Karan, let me just get you in on this now. Look, as loyal, patriotic Indians, we obviously want the reputation of India to be higher and to keep going up. Now, there are certain things which will happen, which will enhance the image of India, ease of doing business, whatever reforms and all are happening, and some will go down. Is it in any way wrong or treasonable or anti-national to be drawing attention to problems that therefore need to be fixed?
As a patriotic Indian, what I believe in is the welfare of our citizens, not an imaginary idea of India that the BJP and this present government has been seeking to advertise with our taxpayers' money. This government has been in campaign mode since it arrived. This is the problem. And since it has arrived, it has been putting up ads of Mr. Modi saying, "Thank you, Mr. Modi," from the Ministry of Petroleum. Who's paying for it? When a message is sent on Facebook between two private individuals saying something about Mr. Modi, quite ultra vires, off the law, a criminal offense on them is slapped. I was on a panel where senior ministers of very, very senior people were standing and said that, oh, we opposed Section 66A in court. I was one of the 5 or 6 counsel who argued that matter, and the Supreme Court was pleased to agree with us and strike it down. When these people were in opposition, they opposed it, right? But they fought tooth and nail to keep it on the statute books. There is a brutal, make no mistake, quashing of free speech in this country. Why is it important though? The reason that it's essential to democracy, the reason that our IPC is so bad on free speech is because back in 1860, we had a colonial government that did not care about it. The only thing that they were interested in is keeping various groups happy, intersay each other. However, there is no way a government is going to know whether a farmer is starving, whether a farmer is committing suicide, whether people are, whether women are being raped. If there is a way in which you are going to quash free speech in this brutal manner all over the country.
Hang on, we're now taking this discussion in entirely different direction, but it's worth talking about. It's worth talking about.
Deeply connected.
She says the government is perennially in campaign mode at taxpayers' expense. I mean, you heard what she said. Is that correct? Is that something right to do? And is therefore an image being sought to be projected that everything is shining, even in areas where it's not?
See, the point is, when a government is there and it is doing good business, it has to advertise. It has to tell the people that we are doing something for you. There is nothing wrong in advertising or letting people know about what good things are happening. And I am not going to talk about all the welfare schemes that we have introduced, how every section of the society has been taken care of, but I am taking only one thing. People who supported emergency, people who supported censorship, they are the people today talking about lack of freedom. Now,
I am 100% against the emergency. This is a creeping emergency.
And also, probably not born actually when the emergency happened.
I was born that year and I have opposed it since I became conscious.
I am talking about the ideologies that supported emergency.
In her defense, if she was born that year, very tough for her to, maybe she was opposing the emergency.
I have, however. I was born opposing the emergency, you can say.
But I am talking about the situation where, political opponents are being killed, where they are being killed. Maximum number of political opponents are being killed in Kerala under the CPM, and we are agitating
CPM
all over the country against
you
that.
All are completely
we are creating public opinion on that.
Kannur situation completely
under Narendra Modi,
everyone is being killed there. RSS and CPM. It's an inter-party war.
Can I just
add? The social harmony in the country has been the best in the last 4 years. And you compare it with the relative figures. Even you can
social harmony. You're saying social harmony is the best it's ever been in the last 4 years.
The lynchings,
no, you can compare it
in last 3 years have risen by 97%. That is one single example.
Party and under the BJP government, the social harmony in the country is
very Let's speak with some good facts, right? If the government was serious about projecting a good image of India, think about it. Any of you in public office, the day a Swiss couple was attacked, it would have sent a message that, look, there is some controversy in India regarding Taj Mahal and tourists are getting attacked. The next day, the government PR machinery should have jumped into action and started talking about Taj Mahal. How it is.
The minister went there, he intervened, he did something about it.
I'll just read two headlines that read. The Guardian said, hardline Hindu nationalist campaign against Taj Mahal. The Swiss Express said, El Express, the Taj Mahal is the last object of Hindu extremist vindictiveness. You take any foreign press, I can quote French press, I can quote Swiss press, British press. Everyone was saying that how Hindu hardliners are attacking Taj Mahal. As a result, Indian image is suffering. But when you direct the entire image of India about image of Prime Minister Modi, you will become myopic, and as a result, you will forget India and boost Modi. That is what is happening.
In 2014 in Agra,
the surrounding area,
a German woman, she was attacked. In 2014, whose government was there? In Uttar Pradesh. In 2007, there were 2 Japanese who were gang raped in Agra, right there in Agra. You can please check it up on Google. Whose government was there at that time? So let us not, we have to, we should talk in terms of the societal changes that have taken place.
The point is
law
India's
and order
image, not
situation
law and
which is
order,
there.
right?
That needs to be addressed rather than pointing fingers towards what, but I mean, you can just dig up into the political history of the country and see so many examples. When you talk about the press, freedom of press, freedom of press is very important. After all, it is the fourth pillar of our democracy. But the point is that Safdar Hazmi also died. He died point blank. Someone killed him. No one talks about Safdar Hazmi here, right? No one talks about Dior Ranjan. When Dior Ranjan died, who was in the government in Bihar?
So let's accept something.
There are cases freedom in there.
Everywhere. Let us address them as a law and order issue.